Hello, Happy New Year and welcome back to Podfiction. This week I'm joined by my co-hosts Ethan and Harley.
Hiya.
Salutations.
We'll be discussing the 1993 film Falling Down. So first I want to bring up the opening scene, well known for its use of audio, music and cinematography to create a tense, claustrophobic atmosphere. It starts with Michael Douglas's character, William Foster, stuck in a traffic jam in downtown America, presumably LA? I'm not 100% sure. Venice Beach, California kind of area, and it's like, why is there a siren going off in the background?
Paul's dead, Josh. Yeah.
No. So it slowly builds up tension by the use of like audio compiling on it to each other, so it just and the pace of the edit increases, and there's like it cuts to like macro shots of things, like there's one of Garfield, just randomly angry Garfield, and it's just this slowly intensifies until Foster abandons his car, and then suddenly it stops. And it's just such a relief to the audience, where it's not silent, but it's so much quieter than it was with all this like abundance of noise and really strong images. It's just a relief. And then he leaves his vehicle, abandons it and walks off. And I personally think the use of audio in the first scene was vital in making the scene as claustrophobic as it was. That and the macro shots. Without them, it just wouldn't feel.
It makes you feel claustrophobic because everything is so close.
Yeah, it's like the noise is right in your head, and
the first shot, it zooms out from his like mouth. Was it his mouth or his?
I think it was.
He's heavy breathing through his mouth.
It's heavy breathing through his mouth, and it's like sweaty. And it's like instantly you feel completely disgusted and uncomfortable.
And that's before all the noise is even started. It's just like,
it gets bad, and you're just like,
that's just him in his car.
You can hear the breathing before you see it, so you could just hear breathing, and you have no idea what it is, like why he's breathing like that. You know, it has kind of, in a way, the uncomfortable mouth breathing sounds a little bit suggestive before they actually show he's just sat there in the car. Kind of uncomfortably suggestive, but it does. Don't judge me. It's true. I'm getting some weird looks right now.
My favourite one was I like the Garfield, the angry Garfield.
I love angry Garfield.
I also liked the two guys who were in the car. They just kept going, give me the phone. Give me that phone back here. And they're just talking about, give him a coffee. Oh, God bless.
It's just like over the top American, isn't it?
Yeah, I also think the kids in the bus, it would drive anyone insane having children in a bus screaming right next to you while you're stuck in traffic, and you can't even like shut out the sound because he had his windows closed at first.
I think also that's reflected in the sound effects because it's all muffled as well. It's like the sounds are there, they're not overwhelming, they're quite quiet on their own. But when you build them up with all the other sounds and pictures from everywhere, and the fly,
and
it's just
you hear a bit of a buzz here and there, and it kind of just goes away. You kind of like flicks it, whatever. And then you actually see the fly crawling up his neck, and then you can see him kind of go a little bit nuts. So he's trying to hit it.
It's so piercing. It's just like, oh my gosh, it just goes through everything.
I also think the kid in the car in front of him just staring at him. I think.
It's just unnerving, isn't it?
Unnerving, very kind of sinister in a way. The way she was
and
staring.
And then you've got the signs that go delay, all the arrows.
Noise is. It's just really a good use of noises and not disturbing but unsettling images that just when combined together make you feel so tense and just ugh.
I do like the use of the fly actually. They used it later on in the film in his mum's house when the police went there to go visit, and every now and then you just hear a bit of a buzz from the fly, and
it just takes you back, doesn't it?
It takes you back to the beginning to remind you of why it's gone like.
Yeah. I also, with the first scene, I think I've mentioned it, but the pace of the edit, it starts off quite slow, drawn out shots. It's like him, just his heavy breathing in a car, slowly panning out, and then over time it becomes just cut to like some woman doing a makeup, to angry Garfield, to fly, to sweat, and it's all macro as well, and it's just it feels like the world's closing in around you, which is why it makes you so claustrophobic.
And then he gets out of the car and just like goes mental, and he's like, "Where are you going?" And he just goes, "I'm going home." And then to all of us at the time,
you just think,
he is going home.
You just like, as
he continuously goes through the film, every time he says he's going home, it's like
you start realising what he means by going home.
Yeah, you question what home is, like home, like because at the beginning he's in his work uniform,
probably just like, oh,
well, he's in a
work.
smart suit,
You feel
which
a
you
little bit
think
more
is his work
you
uniform.
You kind of just think, oh, just go back to his house when
Yeah.
you at the beginning. But then as it goes through, you're like, wait, going home? Why is he calling his wife who clearly isn't his wife?
Well, first you don't even.
He just
First
he
it's like,
just does a Seymour Hoffman in Happiness.
Yeah.
You just pick up the phone and just don't say anything.
Yeah, you could just think, okay, this is
like, you know it's
creepy.
him. It's like, what? Who's she? Like, what's she got to do with him?
And then
why? Like, what?
Yeah.
But then after a few scenes, it's like,
few
oh,
times
okay, we kind of
she's
get it
like,
now.
okay, I know it's you, and he's like, and then I think he says something.
Yes,
doesn't he?
it's me.
And then you're like, okay, that's creepy.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
you just realise how horrifying this guy actually is.
Well, it's not only that, but it's like,
It's also like he doesn't understand.
to me, it's just
I think-
it's a confirmation of you now know those characters are related in some way. Because before it was like, just it cuts to this woman answering the phone and no one answering, but then you kind of figure out, okay, it's him that's phoning her, and then you figure out, oh, okay, they're not together anymore. Oh, they've got a kid. Oh, okay. So you kind of learn more about his character through the use of that.
The ending is very important for his character when he says, wait, I'm the bad guy, and it makes you realise that actually throughout the whole thing he thought he was doing the right thing. He just wanted to go see his daughter.
He just didn't know the boundaries.
He doesn't know the boundaries. He doesn't seem to understand the boundaries and the fact that he's not meant to, and he is scaring her and the mum. I think he just doesn't seem to understand.
I think it just
how bad his actions, how bad it would affect
it
his
highlights
actions
his
actually
mental state. It's just
Yeah.
he's so irritated and overwhelmed with the world that he kind of loses grip of
I
reality.
think he
I
understood
think.
what he was doing.
I don't.
I think he knew. Yeah, I'm angry. I'm going to kill someone.
I didn't think he was going to go there and like do something sinister. I think he was just like, I'm going to go to my daughter's party and I don't care if my wife's going to stop me. I don't care. I'm not going to. I'm obviously.
I think he knew that. It was
he knew that. He didn't.
but he didn't plan to go out that day and like
Oh no, I think
brutally
that,
murder someone.
I think that
Yeah.
just sort of all piled on top of each
It's
other.
just like every little thing got to him, and in the end, it just broke him, and
He
he
went
just.
absolutely nuts.
And then, I think that's also where you get the relation from the audience, because we all have those days where it's just like one thing after another.
I think he's slightly childlike, especially with the water gun at the end. When the police officer pulls out, he's saying, "Oh yeah, let's draw" or whatever, and he goes to take out a gun, and the police officer thinks it's a gun, and he goes to shoot him. Turns out it's a water gun. Kind of adds a little bit to that childlike.
But that suggests to me that he kind of planned that. He was like, I've got a fake gun, I'm going to die now.
When I die, my insurance goes to my kid. It's like a birthday present, basically.
He wanted his daughter to
Because
have
I think he realised that he's never going to see his kids. Like, the world's stopping him, like, he's helpless in
he'll
that
do
sense.
what he can to help her. But
By
he
giving
goes
her this
about
money.
it in the wrong way. He doesn't do the right thing. I mean,
Like, he does everything for a good reason, he just doesn't
realise that it's a bad
Yeah.
thing. I don't think he gets it how bad it actually is, especially with the way he's like, I'm the bad guy. He sounds quite weirdly innocent at that point. You think, whoa, this is strange.
But then it goes from, oh, I'm the bad guy, to, okay, then let's draw.
yeah.
Like, immediately.
Well, let's move on to that, because here's Ethan Izzard's film theory for the week.
Ooh.
I think the
That should be a
writers...
new segment, Ethan Izzard's
Ethan
film
Izzard's
theory of the week.
theory of the week.
That's a mouthful.
I think that the writers of this film purposely made Defense a sort of Western modern cowboy character.
Can I just interrupt? For those of you who don't know, Defense is kind of how you're introduced as him, and like how you kind of...
And that's what they name in the credits.
It's like his name in the credits is his name on his plate, which is kind of important to the story. Without that, he might have never been caught. But
I'll just call him Michael Douglas.
no, call him Defense. I just wanted to give some like backstory into it.
So yeah, Michael Douglas's character Defense, I think he is intentionally written as a modern Western sort of character to fit into this world and sort of convey the consumerism on the world. So here's how I'm going to back up my point.
This is a
So
very Ethan Izzard theory.
number one, the setting. The setting in this one was the early 1990s. Okay, so this is a big change at the point in the world where gay rights is starting to become more prevalent, and like being homosexual was less frowned upon. You've got more foreigners moving to the United States in hope of creating this American dream. And then you've got all these businessmen who own loads of big sections of land. And most cowboy movies are set in the late 1800s. And in those 1800s, you had it was like a big time of change in the world because America was becoming civilized. So foreigners were moving to America in hopes of creating an American dream and becoming rich, much like in the 90s. And then you did have the big businessmen who owned everything, and it was sort of about consumerism then. That was the plant of the seed in the 1890s, and then 100 years in the future, it's repeating itself.
History repeats itself.
And then you've got the whole model of the character himself. Like, look at the front cover. The front cover looks so westerny in how it idolises him, because he stood there with a big shotgun. And you look at the front cover and go, my God, he does look pretty cool.
He looks badass in a way, doesn't he?
And
with his briefcase.
Exactly. While most Western front covers,
you think he's a gangster or something.
Exactly.
Looks at it, but he's not. He's
but
a dude that wants to be his wife.
With the poster I don't know if it supports your theory or not, but what I would have imagined the poster to be like for that film is for him to be really small and with the world around him again reflecting that claustrophobia, but it's not. He's literally centre stage. He's the biggest thing there.
You can't even see anything much in the background.
Yeah, it's just all blurred out.
Yeah, and
it's completely the opposite of what you expect it to be.
That sort of goes down with how in these cowboy movies there usually is either one person who's the standout. Like in The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, the focus is Clint Eastwood, because they did a whole trilogy of movies focused on his character before then. So there's usually one standout character, and on the front cover, he's the most prominent person there. So again, that sort of links into how it's the cowboy theme, and also his costume. Now, we spoke about the glasses he wears and how they're identifiable of the 1950s, and it sort of links into the whole cowboy theme of they wear something very identifiable that dates them, the cowboy hat.
The cowboy hat.
The cowboy hat is sort of a symbol of freedom, and
with a little twisty
his costume really
embodies who he is.
Yeah, embodies his character, and it's
a square, he looks like a nerd, stereotypically.
That's out of date and old fashioned.
While if you looked at a cowboy, big cowboy hat, big boots, you'd be like, oh, that's a cowboy, that looks so ridiculous now. But then back then it was the fashion, much like his costume. And finally, him himself as a character is so Western driven. He's a man who, like you two were just saying, he does bad stuff, but it's still sort of justifiable in his own justice sort of way. And in all these cowboy movies, they go around killing all these people, but you still support them because it's their sort of twinge of justice. It's their justification of justice, and we sort of see that here. And then in the end, when he goes, "I'm the bad guy," that's sort of is a realization of, oh yeah, I've been doing all this bad stuff. But it's also a realization of how you can't have that mindset anymore. The cowboy mindset is I'll do everything I can to help myself. I don't need all these products. I'm a lone wolf I'm a lone ranger.
I think it just shows how the world has changed and he still hasn't. His character still obviously it's not okay to go around killing people, it never was, but why he does things, his reasons for it and his justifications for it are just a bit outdated, and it's
they're a bit outdated, but you could see it being in a cowboy film.
Yeah.
You could just get the same character and pop him in Western world in a film and just
change the scenario and then
change the scenario slightly just so it fits obviously the time period, and you can see it, a guy going
it's the same kind of story arc,
and then I also think it does fit in with the whole American centric theme of the plot, because it was set in the 90s, and his costume is very 50s based, and in the 50s these cowboys were these were the American heroes. Everyone idolized these people. Cowboys were such a big, they were a pinpoint of American culture, at the point where if you were to say cowboy, you'd immediately think American. I think you still would now.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to the point where he's sort of playing this sort of cowboy character mindset, and it's outdated because it's changed
now
from.
He's seen as a bad guy.
Exactly. Everything embodied in the cowboy, strong, patriotic American who's white and stands for himself. He's I'll support my country, but I'm the man who comes first. And he's big and he works and he supports his wife. While in this one, he tries to do the same sort of thing. And then it's
because
he's the bad guy at the end. And also there's little seeds planted throughout the whole thing. In the scene where they have a sort of leaving party and the stripper comes in, they've all got little cowboy hats on.
Yeah.
It's again, that's that. And then again, the film finishes with a duel.
Yeah, it does actually, that's the point. And
there's a famous tale, I don't think it's a movie, called, I think it's Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, where the whole story is about this outlaw who goes around travelling, and the sheriff is always sort of one step behind until they finally meet, and the sheriff wins. And it's much like this film in how it is about the sheriff and the criminal, and the sheriff's always sort of one step behind. When they catch up to him, the outlaw dies.
The sheriff's always like the underdog.
And also in that scene, he has a yellow cowboy hat on, and usually in the cowboy films, the light cowboy hat, because it all used to be in black and white. If they had sort of a lighter cowboy hat, they were the good guy.
Because it's more, it's like you can see it.
Okay, this is really strange, but like this is actually a proper western. But in Home on the Range, the cartoon with the cows, the bad cowboy has a black hat, the good cowboy has a white one.
It's just so you can distinguish the characters in the terms of black and white, like Ethan said.
In the end, the outlaw dies, but he goes out in sort of like a really glorified blaze of glory.
You almost feel bad for him, don't you?
His choice in a way.
It's his choice. He chose to do it, and he's it is sort of it is a cowboy story. The chase happened till it came down to that moment, and he lost.
It's weird. Although that is the end, there's also that scene where she's sat with her daughter, and I just feel like that takes away from the glory.
No, but then I think that's again bringing it back down to earth. How we're talking about now, it was so glorified. It's
wow.
The stuff we did was sort of justified, but then I think that last little shot is just a punch in the face to us and being the mindsets have changed, because if it was sort of low key trying to tell us that it was this mindset is a good mindset, it would have ended in him going out in a blaze of glory and falling back into the ocean. But instead, it ends with his sad wife and his sad kid.
His sad kid who's
just
got to now celebrate her birthday after seeing her dad.
Exactly.
It's also the fact that the cop, the sheriff and Foster believed in the same things. They wanted the similar things. They were basically a similar character, just went around that differently. They made different choices.
Yeah.
And they were unhappy in their lives. They were both working their way. Same. I think the sheriff in this film was amazing.
I like the whole relationship with his wife and what she was like. She was quite controlling, wasn't she?
And that just goes to show that
I feel like she kind of in a way is a little bit similar to what's his name?
Foster.
Yeah.
Foster.
I forgot people's names. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, it's like she's there
controlling.
to make him seem more of this underdog who has to work his way up, and then it finally makes him at the end whoa, he did it.
She is trying to protect her husband or whatever, but with her mental state, that's what she was thinking she was doing, and that's also what Foster thought he was doing with his wife.
And then I also think again
it's
it
just
shows
these parallels, isn't it?
Societal change, because this defense had a very 50s sort of mindset. So it was, I provide for my wife, and if my wife disobeys me, I'm going to act furious at her.
Mm-hmm.
While the polar opposite is the guy who's sort of controlled by his wife in a way.
Yeah. Until the end when he just turns around and says, right, I'm coming home when I want to come home. Make sure you leave the skin on the chicken. That's
that's just sort of a cathartic moment, so we don't just feel sad about it,
Yeah.
But it's a very good movie.
He's doing something good for himself rather than being stuck with his kind of psycho wife.
And he says he's going to stay a police officer. They don't move to that pool, that dirty puddle in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then I think that sort of last confrontation is really sort of cathartic for the police officer as well.
Yeah.
Because he's just the way he talks, he's I'm about to move out to this dirty puddle in the middle of the lake. And I think it both sort of, that is a good, nice little full stop for the story.
Yeah.
It's it's sort of, it tells the tale of each character perfectly. And it's we've got Defense, who obviously perishes but dies for what he thinks is right. And then you've got the police officer who he realises that maybe I should be more sort of controlling of myself.
I do like your little, what is it?
Cowboy little metaphor.
Your little metaphor theory thing.
Yeah.
It's very, I didn't even notice that. That's weird.
I think Ethan picks out different things. He's outside the box.
Yeah, he is. And also he likes westerns, so I'm not really that surprised that he noticed.
I think also, on that note, we should start wrapping it up. We're running out of time. So any more last comments on Falling Down?
Not that I can think of.
No, I like the douchebag cop. douchebag cop who
Oh
punches
yeah,
him.
it's so annoying actually.
It's like a bit of comedic
I have
relief when he finally got his revenge and like pushed him into the cake.
Oh,
That was-
satisfying.
I think moments in that film were quite good.
They couldn't even put the sheriff's full name on the cake, which I think is disappointing considering how big it was, and they could have written the writing small. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else I can think of.
Yeah, next
It was
week.
very good.
RoboCop, isn't it?
RoboCop.
Murphy's
Never
Law.
seen it. Never seen it. So
Me neither,
I might
I've never
enjoy
seen
this.
it.
Will I
Okay.
enjoy this?
Yeah, it's RoboCop, isn't it? Of course you'll enjoy it.
It's
Okay.
the original. So on that note, we'll wrap up. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.